The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is sponsored by Two Fat Lardies and Miniature Wargames of Battle Games magazine, but also by the generous donations of you, the listener. A special thank you goes to Glenn Oberhauser, David Blood, Daniel Schmidt, Tom Privatera, and Alex McIntosh. Thank you to everybody once again for your most generous support. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast, episode 160. Sword and Spear, 2nd edition. With hosts Neil Shuck, Mike Hobbs and Mike Whitaker, and guests Mark Lewis and Stuart McCorquodale. Hello, welcome to another episode of the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. I'm Neil Shuck and I'm joined by the two Mikes, Mike Hobbs and Mike Whitaker. Hi guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Right, how are you doing guys? You alright?
Very well.
Oh, surviving?
Surviving, yes. Off air we've just been discussing the fact that Mr. Whitaker currently looks like he's missed a... Well, no, he didn't miss a punch from Mike Tyson.
Yep, pretty much. They've just done a little bit of surgery on my eyelid, and needless to say, it's as bruised and swollen as all get out.
But he's making up for that with the fact that he's got tickets to the red carpet premiere for Force Awakens.
Get.
So we hate him. And this,
as a friend of mine said on Facebook, none of my office know you, but they all hate you.
Yeah, pretty much. That was what going around my place as well. To be honest, I went when I saw it on Facebook yesterday. I kind of went, "You are joking," and everybody went, "What?" Said, "Mate of mine's going to the premiere."
So I shall I shall report back for you.
Oh, cool. Lots of pictures.
No spoilers.
There was
no spoilers. No spoilers.
There was a very short period of negotiation between wife and son, which boiled down to wife saying, "I'm going."
Pulling rank. I'm the parent.
Wife is huge Star Wars fan. This is the lady who, on the night that Return of the Jedi came out, went to a marathon in the Editon Leicester Square, saw A New Hope at 8 p.m, Empire Strikes Back at 10 p.m, so they could watch Return of the Jedi at midnight.
Cool, sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me too. She's been texting me with little grins and snippets of Star Wars music all day. I think she's quite pleased.
Yay.
So actually, you're one of the very first people in the world to see it, aren't you?
There's a premiere in France the day before, I believe.
Ah, that's it. Yeah, but you get to see it before everybody in America.
Yes. Isn't that nice?
So all my American listeners, that's Mike Whitaker, care of Meeples and Miniatures. Send your hate mail there, okay?
Moving swiftly on.
I just hope you sat next to the guy who did the voiceover for Jar Jar Binks.
Mind you, I think you won't be able to report on that until our end of the year show, because even our next show is going to be out on the 15th. It's going to be out on the 15th, which is the day before. So we're not going to be able to hear about this until the end of the year. By which time we'll have all seen it anyway.
Yeah, it'll be really old hat by then.
It'll be old hat by then. Yeah.
I love you too, guys.
This is unless we just record a very quick 10-minute one of Mike going, I've seen it, and we just release that on the 17th.
Followed by sounds of violence.
Yeah.
Yes. I
should note I am missing the work Christmas party for this. Not that it was much of a decision.
No.
I could have gone 10-pin bowling in Bayswater instead.
Wow, what a choice.
Yeah, even the person organising the party said I'd made the right call.
Oh, superb. Absolutely superb. Right, well, enjoy yourself, right?
Yeah, congratulations, mate.
Yeah.
Really pleased for you. Yeah, that's great.
Marvellous.
Mm.
What's the face? Moving
Swiftly on. We should discuss a little poll you ran, Neil.
I'm just going to go mute a second and let you two fight it out.
Hey, Hobbsy, come on, you got to back me up here.
I'm definitely
What's the result again? Well, someone, let's rewind a bit. What was the poll again?
The poll was, do 15mm tanks look better based?
And the result?
It was a travesty. It was a travesty. A travesty? A
tapestry?
It was a tapestry.
No, I thought it was paving slab, actually.
Yeah.
The result appears to be that almost 70% of the gaming population are so incredibly misguided it's untrue.
I would like to note
68%, 32%, I believe, was the...
Please note, dear listeners, that I am markedly more gracious in victory than Neil is in defeat.
I know it can't really be described as a scientific experiment because there was only about 20 odd people who
No, there was excuse me, I think there were 64 people.
There were 65 entrants, and I have it on good authority from my colleague at work that the result is statistically significant.
What, because it's got over...
Don't ask me. He said meaningless
64.
statistical mumbo-jumbo I didn't understand, but that yes, it was statistically significant. So I'm sorry, you're wrong.
I still think it looked better with bases.
Yeah, and all my stuff is all in keeping with each other, so I'm perfectly happy. Yeah. However,
we will take the moral high ground.
Is that what you call it? Elevated above everybody else by the thickness of a paving slab.
Yes.
No, I am taking the commodian position. The other opinions are available; they just happen to be wrong.
Indeed.
Yes. From my favourite film critic, but
I shall merely sit and note where the result of the poll sits. Moving swiftly on.
I did post it. I didn't like delete the poll or anything. At least I kind of went, well, yeah. It does appear that
I had taken a precautionary screenshot just in case.
Didn't you trust me? No. I must admit, some of the answers I did kind of make me smile. Yeah, the Mr. Jones going, no. You get the idea. No. And Ms. Pollard saying they're a spawn of the devil or something like that.
Yes.
See, there are some really enlightened people there.
I personally just think the people who don't base their 15mm vehicles are just lazy.
Well, there is that.
Yeah.
I won't deny it. I just think they look ugly as well. Moving on. Since we're not going to resolve this argument other tthan by asking the masses and you're ignoring the result.
Yes. Unless it comes in...
I'm not ignoring the results. I'm acknowledging the results. But, I'm acknowledging that a result exists. I'm not ignoring it.
Of course you aren't, Neil.
Anyway, moving swiftly on, as you say. Despite the fact that you brought it up.
Why? Were you going to?
Actually, I was. Mr. Hobbs, will you be my witness here? Did we not have this discussion before Mr. Whitaker came on to say, I hope Mr. Whitaker comes on so we can have an argument?
Yes.
No.
We have text evidence on Skype. I'll send it to you later.
Include it in the show notes.
Yes.
Yeah. Basing vehicles will have to go down with things like, point systems.
With the difference being that as far as basing vehicles are going, we actually had the discussion.
Yes.
Roundtables next year, point systems, watch this space. It may happen, you never know. Anyway, so it's only been a few days since we last chatted, but what have you guys been up to?
Go on, Mike, you can go first.
Not an awful lot. Having my eye poked at. What else have I done this week? Had a couple of games of Sales of Glory down the club.
Sales of Glory, is that this game that we haven't talked about yet?
That's the one.
Ah, right, okay.
And what else have we done? That's about it, really. It's been kind of busy catching it, trying to make sure I got all the work I was supposed to do done before I got half a week off for eye operations.
Do you have a game of Halo as well?
You're right, I did. Good spot. Yes, I had a game of Halo Fleet Battles.
Ooh,
and it was awesome.
It's a good little game, isn't it?
It's a very nice little game. I was pleasantly impressed, even though I did get completely trounced.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Who are you playing?
We were playing the humans.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. Yes.
There was after about 2 turns, there was a massive great hole in our centre, mostly caused by very large plasma lances, and from there on it all went rather downhill.
Indeed.
But they are remarkably pretty pretty ships.
Yep.
Nice and elegant rules that do actually bear a little bit of resemblance to Full Thrust in a couple of ways, having now played both. And yes, if you find my Twitter feed, there are some pictures of AD's rather nice miniatures and Greg's very pretty spaceboard from our club up on my Twitter feed, which is at @TATM_blog.
Cool. I shall put a link to that in the show notes.
There you are. You never put any show notes up.
I did for the last time, I remembered.
He did?
Did he?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, even when Mr. Whitaker promised to send me the link and didn't.
I did. You just didn't read the Skype chat channel before you shut the session down.
Well, yeah, it was I expecting an email, you know.
As you can tell, dear readers, this podcast is wonderfully organised.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So that's me, anyway.
Cool. How about you, Mr. Hobbs?
Not much at all. Very little gaming over the last month. I've had a couple of games of Otherworld, which has been nice. My big face orcs have been doing the business.
Oh yeah, yes. Again, you've been tweeting a couple of photos of that, haven't you? Yes. In your wonderful fantasy dungeon stuff from Battle Systems.
It works really well. Mm-hmm. So loving that. I've been doing a tiny bit of painting to some lots of Otherworld stuff, which we discussed in the interview.
Yes.
And I've gone back and started painting my orcs for Sword and Spear Fantasy. So I've got a few packs of orcs from Callister, so I'm doing them at the moment.
Right.
And
again, all will be revealed in the upcoming interview.
Indeed. My Persian army is almost finished, so I bought some Scythians.
Oh, so you did buy some Scythians? Yes.
I sort of mentioned it on Twitter, and a guy called Craig from Tiny Terrain came up and said, I've got some of them if you want them from Westwind. Do you want the army one? Go on then. So,
superb.
So God bless him, I bought that off him.
One of the drawbacks of being on this podcast is that you mention things you're interested in, and listeners who have second-hand stuff they want to get rid of accost you at shows, Mr. Douglas, with things they know you want.
Indeed. Yeah. Yes, I've had that with things like with. Do you want my 6-month Napoleonic army? Yeah, that'd be wonderful. Yeah, it's still in the envelope. I forget how long ago it was. It was a long time ago, and off the top of my head, I can't remember who sent it to me. Many apologies, but just to let you know, if you're the person who sent me their 6, I think it was 6 mil Brits for Napoleonics, I'm afraid they're still in the envelope. Because I found them the other month. And it's like, oh, that's where they went.
Yeah. What have you been up to, Neil?
I've been painting.
He has, you know. He's posted pictures and things as well.
I've been figure painting.
No, he has painted a figure.
Well,
I've seen it. I've seen pictures. Yeah.
Yeah. That's true. No,
Mike, Mike, a word in your ear. Is this actually Neil we're talking to here?
Just the one figure he's painted. You know, but
that's all right.
I got a minute. Right, okay, just right. Okay, not been gaming a lot, primarily because there was an ongoing discussion which you may have not been privy to about needing 6 feet of slit trench in order to play Pegasus Bridge. Because anybody who knows Pegasus Bridge scenario will know that either side of the bridge, on both sides of the river, they had slit trenches going down both sides of the river. And so it's like I turned around to Mr. Luff and said, we need some slit trenches, and I'm not going to. We've got some stuff to do it. I've got an idea how to do it. I'm not going to buy them. And you kind of went, oh yeah, okay. So it was wonderful, you see, because if you don't know, Mr. Luff is currently doing a city and guilds course in painting and decorating, because he's changing profession. He's becoming a painter decorator. So it was a thing of beauty the other week watching him professionally put filler onto these slit trenches. Get the old trowel out and as only a professional can. Did it about half the time I could. Anyway, but we've been building slit trenches, and also it happened that the Meeples bunker is currently filled with 3 fish tanks, big fish tanks. So we can't get the gaming table out. So we've been sat painting slit trenches for a couple of weeks now. Anyway, but that does mean that because of that, I was fiddling around, and suddenly on a Friday night, I suddenly kind of went, I could really do be getting on with those. So yes, I've changed. Well, after my last confessions about spray cans and what have you, I have actually moved on from there, and I've finished the base coating on all my infantry in a colour I'm much more happy with. I've actually completely painted one figure just to kind of test all the colours and know exactly what I'm doing. So now I've just got to go back, and it's one of these things of just going around every single figure, and like, okay, now I have to paint the gas mask case this colour.
Having taken copious notes, I hope.
What colours I'm using?
Yep.
Yeah, well, ish. Yeah, pretty much.
Make notes, save it on the computer, type it out. Trust me.
Right. Hang on. The last time you said trust me, I ended up with an exploded can of spray paint.
That's because you boiled it. There was nothing in my instructions that said boil a can of spray. I said just spray them. Take a can of spray, shake it, spray it or something.
Yes, okay. Fair enough. I was just trying to think if there's anything else I've been doing. No, that's about it.
So,
no, I've not been playing any games.
What are you going to do about the bridge? The bridge. Bridge.
What you mean what you mean the bridge that you need to buy to play one scenario?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're probably going to proxy it. It's terrible, isn't it?
I don't know about that.
Can't US War Bases for a review copy?
Except for the fact that one's too big. Because it's
Sarissa?
$4,000.
Super. Come on, there's more people who make Pegasus Bridge than there are make Sherman tanks, just about.
Yeah, it did become very, very. I must admit, I had to smile, and apologies if I offend somebody here, but I did see a post the other day. I think it was on TMP from a guy who'd bought the bolt action starter set and bought the Pegasus Bridge bolt action starter set. The comment was, well, I bought it primarily for the scenery. By the way, does anybody want an army of British paratroops? Because neither me or my son want to play British paratroops. And obviously, having been through this discussion, because me and Dave have been going backwards and forwards on this a little bit to say, do we actually want to buy Pegasus Bridge? And to be honest, Dave is weakening. Dave is actually the opinion that actually I might have to go and buy a Pegasus Bridge. I feel like I should go and buy a Pegasus Bridge.
Yes, you should do.
But it just made me smile that this chap had obviously gone out, bought the Pegasus Bridge box set for the scenery, and then wanted to sell the British paratroops in the box set. Did you
get Mr. Luff to advise him on the durability of British paratroops?
Well, no, it wasn't. It just wasn't so much that. It was the fact that he turned around and gone, oh, I'm starting this, so I thought that. Oh, I bought it for the bridge, and this thing this voice in the back of my mind going, you do realise that there's a reason that bridge is so iconic. Other than the actual action, the other reason is actually there's not an awful lot of them.
Boy, I'd have had those paras because I have a Op Squad Force for powers, which is also only about 10 or 12 figures, and I should get up. I really need to get that up to platoon strength at some point, just so I can beat people with it.
Oh yeah, you need British powers, and besides, you need a full British power force so you can have a proper game of the Eagle has landed,
among many other things.
Amongst many other things. But there you go.
The raid on the radar station that sits with name escapes me seems like a fun one to do as well.
Yes,
beautiful chain of command scenario.
Funnily enough, I was reading. I've just read the Osprey book on that, and I'm desperately trying to remember it myself. 1942. Yes.
There's a very good book that I've just read, which is actually reviewed on my blog, and I can't remember what it's called, which shows how long ago it was.
Brunval? No, it isn't Brunval, is it?
Brunvald.
It is Brunval.
Yes.
Brunval raid. Yeah. Yes.
And there is a book entitled Night Raid by Taylor Downing, which I reviewed the audio book of on my blog not so long ago, which I can strongly recommend.
Yes, and as I say, the Osprey raid book on it is also very good. I have just read that on Kindle.
I suspect it could be put into a very nice chain of command scenario if you tried.
Yeah. Oh yes. I imagine. Yes. Yes. I think that would be. I think it would make a very good. To be honest, that's how I was looking at it. I was kind of.
In fact, if my eyes have recovered in time to write something for the Lardy's Christmas special,
that's a good idea. I look forward to that. It's interesting going through all this stuff because again, an awful lot of the stuff as I've been writing about and stuff for a while now, going at, it's probably going to end up being next year now, or the start of next year that we're going to end up doing, starting our big British Powers campaign, and of course. The one thing is that the first 7 or 8 scenarios of this take place at night. Of course, Chain of Command don't actually officially have any night rules. I think
there's something you can write for this Christmas special.
Well, there is I think there's one scenario. I think it's 2000. I think it's one of the 2013 specials that has something a little bit about night rules. But night rules and sentries, and things like because like you have games where they turn around and say on turn 2 this happens, because I'm using obviously scenarios for other game systems, which are more traditionally turn based, and it's like on turn 2 this happens, on turn 4 this happens, and you're looking at okay, so how do you convert that for Chain of Command? An interesting challenge.
You could. I mean, this. You've gone a little bit left field, but I've actually got the Pegasus Bridge campaign box for Heroes of Normandy, which has got all rules in there for sentries and knights, and it's sort of 15mm scale.
Oh, right, so can I actually have a look at the rules? Are the rules available on PDF for that?
I believe they are available for download. You can get them.
Ooh, right. In that case, then I shall go and have a look.
It's worth having a little flick through, but it's
it's just
there might be something in there that you can use.
Anyway, so that's kind of what we've been up to. So interesting. Yeah, interesting bits and pieces. But yes, so many apologies to everybody because I've just hastened the end of the world because I've actually started painting figures. And I must admit, when I did it, I did cause consternation from at least a couple of people who were very disappointed with the fact that I actually started painting because it meant that all of a sudden they could no longer use me as an excuse.
Yeah.
But there you go.
Yeah. Oh, other news from me. I've done something which I haven't done for a long, long time. I've been selling stuff.
Ooh.
I've been having a sort out of my lead pile, and I've actually sold things.
Ooh.
And that never happens.
It's something that has to be done from time to time, and yes, I do officially have to say thank you because I was a slight beneficiary of some of this.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah. Yeah, we got some stuff, and Mr. Luff got a few bits and pieces. So thank you.
That's all right.
So So, all right. So, So, lots of major stuff gone, or just a few bits.
Well, it's lots of 40k stuff, which I've had for years. And
what do you mean? What 40k? Just at the point where Games Workshop turn around and go, "We're redoing specialist games," which obviously must have you kicking and screaming and jumping up and down and turning loops in the air because they're going to redo Battlefleet, Gothic, and Epic.
They're going to mess it up. We all know they're going to mess it up. They're going to come up with some stupid arse rules. They'll probably change the scale and put it on different bases. They'll do what they did the stupid Dreadfleet game that they came out with. Although I'm happy to be proven wrong, but apparently the Epic ones are coming out till 2018 anyway.
Oh, okay.
So they got 2.5 years to mess it up.
So lots of stuff to be able to play. Play Planetfall, and whenever Ken finally gets his act together and puts his rules out.
Yeah.
Come on, Ken.
Yeah.
We're waiting. Come on, mate.
Yes,
you can do it. So 40k stuff and
just sort out just crap really. To be honest with you, I've had all these boxes of 40k stuff. I'm never going to use it, so they've gone. And a few other bits and bobs and just stuff.
Yeah.
I've almost cleaned up a whole shelf in my cupboard.
Ooh.
Just in time for me to fill it back up again with all the stuff I've had underneath my table.
Yes, because you have been busy again, haven't you? A little bit. Yeah. Which kind of leads us on quite nicely to something else you wanted to talk about, because before we go into the interview, we did want to have a quick chat about what was the phrase? Kickstarter Watch.
Kickstarter Watch.
Yeah. Yes. Hold that thought until Mr. Whitaker gets some nice new audio for us.
Oh yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Watch this space. We'll discuss it next time. Okay. But yes. So Kickstarter Watch.
Yeah, it's a nice one starting up. The one that's grabbed my attention mostly is one I haven't backed yet, which is RuneQuest Second Edition reprint.
RuneQuest. That's one of your first games, isn't it, mate?
Yeah.
Hang on, we were discussing that on, was it the Other World? World? Yeah. Or with the Guys from Cookie Dice, wasn't it?
Yeah, probably both of those.
Yeah.
The proper second edition rules, which I've actually still got mine in the original box. Great.
From first time round.
First time round, yeah.
All right, so basically what you're saying is that because of this Kickstarter, they've just completely lost the value.
It's not about the value, Neil. It's about having them and reading them now and again.
Yeah.
But they're redoing. They're just going to reprint the rules and put them in, nicely bound, and all of the old scenario packs and all that. They're going to redo the whole lot. So, which would be great. Obviously, it's going to kill the resale value of everybody who's got all of those. Mm. But yeah, it'd be great to be able to just pick them up.
It depends. It may not. Having seen what original editions of things occasionally go for, you might find they hold their value.
Yeah, actually, when you think about it,
thinking how what the stupid price for first edition Space Hulk and Blood Bowl used to be.
That is true. So there's that. So that's running now. But the other one, which we do want to have a chat about, is our good friend Robin Fitton. He of Grunt's fame.
Indeed, Robin. Hello, Robin.
Yes, he's doing Imperial Skies.
Imperial Skies, yes.
Which is a proper Kickstarter, because he wants to raise $3,500 to actually get the book into print. So it's a proper one. It's none of this rubbish, where we're going to need millions of people to sign in and all that. But it's just to get the book into print, and it's a nice little sort of redo of the old Aeronef rules.
What, you mean Aeronef?
Aeronef, yeah, what they're called. Well, it's not a redo of the rules. It's basically using those figures and doing a sort of lighter and air fictional alternative World War I game. Yes.
Now, unfortunately, as soon as this launched, we kind of went, "Oh, that's really interesting," and then saw how long it was running for, and looked at our schedule and kind of went, "We really want to talk to Robin about this. Unfortunately, there's no way we're going to get this and get him chat about it and get it sorted before the Kickstarter finishes."
But it means we can get him on when he comes out, and he can talk about it.
Yes, and there's already a couple of people who flagged up to say, are you going to get Robin on the show to talk about this? And so the answer is, although we haven't kind of officially spoken to Robin yet, unless Mike's actually emailed him, but yes, we will.
Yeah.
It is firmly our intention, as soon as they come out, or at the point where they're scheduled to come out, to get Robin on the show and talk all about Imperial Skies.
Yeah. And the Kickstarter looks really good. I'll give knowing Robin, the rules are going to be good anyway.
Yeah.
Because, Grunts is great. And he's got a knack of writing good rules. And he's teamed up with Brigade as well, Brigade Games. So he's using all of their fleets. Yeah,
and they've got some special deals on they've got some special deals on fleet boxes on as part of that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you can. For £40 you can get the rules plus a starter fleet, which is great. So yeah, so that's one I've signed up for.
Because I've looked at AeroNF on and off 2 or 3 times now. I even went as far. I bought the. There was another one. There was a box that came out by. Oh crikey, what was it called? Was it?
Leviathan?
Leviathan, that was the one. Leviathan. Yeah, well remembered. Yeah, you know my game collection more than I do.
Yeah,
and I did put that, and that's fantastic. That's really. It was, mind you, it was a massively different scale to what Brigade do. These are really quite big ships and stuff. And I don't know. Perfectly honest, I'm not sure whether or not I get on with that or not, because it's a particular genre, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it's a very odd genre.
Yeah,
but it sort of tickles a few fancies for me.
Yeah,
I kind of like that sort of stuff. Which is, I do like dystopian wars, and I like those sort of quirky.
As I say, dystopian wars is very, in some ways, it's quite similar, isn't it? Or it has that similar part of the genre to it.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So as an idea, and looking at the Kickstarter and looking at the rules, I think, yeah, that's really cool. Would I ever collect it? Not quite so sure at this point in time. But
now's a really bad time to mention All Quiet on the Martian Front, isn't it?
You just had to say that, Mr. Whitaker, didn't you?
Yes, rant inbound.
Okay. At this point, shall I parry with? Have you opened any of those boxes yet?
You could if you like.
Oh, that sounds like he has.
I've had the Dungeon Saga box open and rearranged on the game shelf.
Yeah, hang on a second. Yeah, we knew you had this. We knew you had the Dungeon Saga box open because you got caught bringing it in the house.
Yes, but I had it closed up again and all back in the original packaging after that. Not yet.
No. Has that Fantasy Cavalry Kickstarter finished now?
No, it's got 3 days to go.
Well, it will have finished by the time it's...
So if you're very quick with editing this, it won't have finished.
No, not a hope.
Past their stretch. They've passed their first stretch goal. They're probably not going to make their second stretch goal, sadly.
That's a shame, because the second stretch goal, which was that mage on a white tiger, was really nice.
That was very, very pretty, and yes. I did add some extra to my pledge for it, in the hope that it might get there.
But no, they've done. What they've done with it so far looks really cool. So
it does.
Yes.
But again, it's a proper Kickstarter.
Yes, indeed. So, anything else, Mr. Hobbs, that's caught your eye as far as Kickstarter is concerned?
Not Kickstarter-wise, but gaming-wise, the laddies have pushed out their Great War Compendium, which does look interesting. That came out in November.
Yes.
In fact, it is still November, unless you listen to this in December, in which case, last month, they...
I did spot that at the point yesterday when I was purchasing the Scottish Corridor.
Well, that was the next thing I was going to suggest. Yes, so we've got Scottish Corridor, Operation Martlet, and the Great War Compendium. So lots of nice things coming out of Lard Island news.
Mr. Clark has been busy.
Yes, Scottish Corridor is really good. For what I've read of it so far, it follows on immediately from Operation Martlet, and except for the fact if someone was following my Twitter feed this morning, I was cursing the fact that having read through Scottish Corridor, the first thing I had to do was go, rats! I thought I had all my German vehicles. Now I've got to go out and buy another one.
I do have to say that the Scottish Chord does fill me with terror because of a game I played at Bobby one year.
Yeah.
I did a weekend game playing Battlefront World War II rules. It was 10 of us playing there. Huge, great table, all 15mm, massive, great game in one of the small rooms in Bovey. And it was baking hot, and I think I spent the entire weekend looking at about a foot section of this table because that's all I had. And ever since I thought, I don't want to play a Battlefront anymore. Lovely people, good people to play with, but it's a really intense game, and doing that for a whole weekend, it was hard work.
That aside, it does look a really good little supplement. Lots of interesting things, and for once in Normandy, the Germans get to attack. Yes.
Plus, they can't use his powers, can he?
No. So we probably won't be playing it till the end. We'll probably be playing it this time next year, knowing my luck. Yeah, but yeah, it's good. Looking forward to that. That is well worth getting hold of.
Yeah, especially $360.
Oh yeah,
great price.
This is it, and even if you don't play Chain of Command, now I know some people were saying, "Well, hang on a second, don't you need the don't you need the other campaign rules?" And actually, well, yes and no. Sharp. If you're playing Chain of Command, then yes, you do need at the sharp end for the proper campaign. However, if you're playing another set of rules, you can put because you effectively have the scenarios and you have the force lists that go with those. So, that start the game with, and obviously all the historical background and stuff. You can basically plug it into whatever system you're playing, and it works. And at the very, very worst, you've got 6 standalone scenarios to play. At the very worst, you've got 6 scenarios to play. So even if you don't play Chain of Command, £3.50.
Yeah,
Brilliant value.
It's a great resource.
Yeah, really, really good. And hopefully, for what Rich was saying, this is again. I mean, this is one of several that he's going to do around Calm because there is just so much there. There is just so around Goodwood and Epsom and Hill 112 and all that. There's just so much going on, and it is really amazing just how much you can get it out of an action over. I mean, okay, it was I suppose. The whole Battle for Calm was a few weeks, wasn't it? But there is amazing just how much gaming you can get out of that. And as I mean, even like with Operation Martlet and Scottish Corridor, you can potentially be gaming for. Say if you game once a week, for example, that's like at least 3 months. Because, even if you play as quickly as you can, I think there's something like 11 or 12
And you have no other distractions down the club of other rule systems you want to play.
Well, this is it. Yeah. But I mean, there's just loads and loads of stuff there. So
from my point of view, one of those books is price of pint for a year's gaming or more.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. So brilliant. Yeah. Cool. So, shall we get on with the interview?
I think we probably should.
Yep.
We should. Okay, so we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be talking with Stuart McCorquodale and Mark Lewis.
I must get through to Sergeant Watson's position. Jenkins, cover me.
Sir.
Whoa. Sergeant Watson, bring your men in. Withdraw.
It's all right, sir. We're enjoying ourselves.
What?
Yes, sir. It's these here Chain of Command rules, sir. We're having great fun.
Chain of Command?
That's right, sir. It's a challenging but fun blend of command and control. It gives me the freedom I want to fight the way I want to. Never had so much fun, sir.
And we've cooked you some sausages.
Can't be helped, sir. Me and the lads are staying put.
Chain of Command, World War II, platoon level rules from Two Fat Lardies. They really put you in control. And they're even better than sausages.
We're pleased to welcome back to the Meeples and Miniatures podcast a couple of people, one who hasn't been on for a while, and one, it's been almost days since we last spoke to him. It's Stuart McCorquodale and Mark Lewis. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hi. Hello.
Hi. Great to have you on the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us both, yeah.
We're going to chat today about, some news that Stuart attempted to break to me the last time we spoke to him. We were talking about Iron Cross, and I just completely failed to pick up on all the clues and just didn't ask the question. So we're going to talk about second edition Sword and Spear.
Hey.
And yeah, so that's really good. But before we do that, we've got a couple of things that we want to catch up with Stuart first. First off, I suppose most immediately, the Iron Man painting challenge, Stuart. How did it go?
Yes, it went. We finished it. Again, we did it. So the objective from our side on the Iron Man challenge was to do 2 Frostgrave warbands in an evening. Mm-hmm. It was myself, Annie the Dice Bag Lady, some willing volunteers as well we roped in to help. And we had a couple of other people in painting their own stuff, and we got it done. We got it done early, actually.
Superb.
It was barely daybreak when we were finished.
And so, what exactly did you manage to get painted?
20 figures, 2 Frostgrave warbands. We're going to add some scenery stuff to it as well. North Star military figures has kindly donated a Frostgrave book, so we're going to have a big bundle, which we're going to start auctioning off next week. So that's I think that's about the 23rd of November. We'll stick that up for auction. Hopefully, we'll get loads of people interested. We'll get they're 2 nicely painted warbands, and hopefully the charity aspect will put a bit more value on it. And we can raise a load of money. Fantastic stuff.
Well, let us know as soon as it's on. We'll post a link up. How long is the auction going on for? Have you decided?
We haven't decided yet. In fact, the social media genius that is Annie the Dice Bag Lady will be in charge of all of those little details. But we'll announce those next week, so that'll be around the 23rd of November.
Right.
So just before, I think that's just before the podcast goes out.
Yeah. So by the time you've heard this, hopefully, we will have posted a link as soon as the auction goes live. So hopefully by the point you are listening to this, you will have already known about it and bid on it. So hope your bid went well.
So get on the Great Escape Games Facebook page or the Dice Bag Lady Facebook page. We've also got a contribution from your very own Mr. Michael Hobbs.
Hello.
There he is. So we've got a load of good stuff up for auction.
Yeah, I finished mine. Almost killed me. I'm not doing it again, Stu. I'm too old.
Yeah.
Did you do the other world?
Yeah.
It's Mike, yeah.
Yeah, what was it? 10 drow, including those 2 spider things, driders.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of berserkers as well. And I just finished the last of the characters, so there'll be the drow faction and a bunch of characters and berserkers to go against them, plus all the rules and tokens and cards. So there'll be 2 nice big sales there, and hopefully we'll raise a mint.
Hopefully, yeah, they were nice because you kind of finished painting and basing them yesterday, didn't you?
Yeah, I've literally just put the tufts on one, so I'm going to deliver them to probably to Annie tomorrow down the club. So by the time you listen to this, they would be delivered and hopefully sold.
Fantastic work again, both Stuart and Michael. Great stuff, and I hope it does really well. And,
thanks.
That's good. So, okay, that was Iron Man. We also need to catch up with what's happening with Iron Cross, because the last time we spoke, it was going to the printers. So, where are we with Iron Cross release?
I've got to sign off the proofs, which I haven't done. I haven't done because I wasn't happy with 4 of the pages. So I've changed 4 of the pages, but we're still on target for a mid-December release.
Good stuff. And I've been asked by several of our American and Antipodean listeners to see if I can twist your arm. Can they please have a PDF version? No pressure.
Do you know what? If someone can convince me of a technological solution and wants to email me and get in contact with me about how we can do it, then maybe. Generally, the answer is no. We don't do PDFs.
Right.
The good news for North American and Australian enthusiasts is that the distributors there will have it. So it'll be War and Peace Game in Australia will have it. And several in North America will have it as well. So there's at least that. At least they won't have to pay huge shipping charges, and then they can probably get it from their local game store, as long as they ask them.
Okay, well, listeners, I asked the question. There you go. So, in the meantime, if you can think of a solution, email Stuart and see what you can come up with. But it was just so many people were commenting on the Facebook and the Twitter saying, "But we want it on a PDF."
yeah, I understand that, but the other thing is the book's only going to be £12, and I don't think a PDF version would be that much cheaper than that. So why not just have the book for £12? Maybe I'm old-fashioned, eh?
Yeah, well, I must admit, I'm big on having it on a tablet and this and the other. But as you say, sometimes I think it's a case of it's not necessarily the fact that the PDF is cheaper. It's the fact it's just the convenience of the media.
Yeah, if some people can convince me, and I can convince the board of Great Escape Games, both of us.
Because what do you mean, Mark?
Yeah. And you know what he's like.
Yeah.
Then yes, I'm all for it.
Okay, thank you. The main reason we got you both together on today's show was to chat about, as I say, Stuart was during the Iron Cross show when we were asking, well, what's coming up? He was desperately trying to tell me all about Sword and Spear, and I just refused to ask the question of him. So, now, given a second opportunity, Stuart, one thing that you've posted up on the Facebook page for Great Escape Games, and I say obviously you mentioned before in the show, is that you got the second edition of Sword and Spear coming up. Now, listeners to the show will know that Sword and Spear is basically one of our one of our favourite sets of ancient rules. So, really interested to know how all this came about.
Well, it's quite simple, actually. I was introduced to Sword and Spear by first Mike talking to me about it, and then Annie talking to me about it. And Annie inquired directly about stocking Sword and Spear, and I was interested in stocking it as well. But because of the medium through which the first edition of Sword and Spear was printed, it wasn't really viable for shops to stock it. So that got me thinking about, well, the fact that shops can't stock it.
What was that? Because it was print on demand, yeah?
It was print on demand. Well, you could technically stock it, but
it wouldn't be practical.
There wasn't margin
in terms of the finances to get it printed by Lulu and then sort of selling it in a shop. It just wouldn't have worked really.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to say to a retailer, yeah, you can stock it, you'll make 50p on it. Well, it's just not going to happen, is it? And that's where the discussion opened between me and Mark was really about getting it to a wider market and getting it to a position where it would be an attractive set of rules for retailers to stock, and the kind of type of rules that you'd see at war game shows, and just getting it more widely distributed. Right.
Now, I have to ask the question, because obviously Great Escape Games already have a set of Ancients rules with Clash of Empires. Now, admittedly, they are actually very different styles of games.
Yeah.
But was there obviously any thought about, well, hang on a second, I've already got a set of Ancients rules here?
Well, we're publishing a second set of World War II rules.
Well, yeah, but I kind of see. I kind of see what you mean, because again, it's and
it's different things for different people as well. Clash of Empires is a big, heavy set of rules. It's been like 100 and I can't remember how many pages. It's a big book though, and that's for one style of wargaming. See, I'm quite open to my wargaming. Sometimes I like to play something that's really in depth and heavy, and where I spend a lot of time thinking about what kind of army composition I've got. And at other times, I like to play a game that focuses really on just the tactical element, and that goes for any historical period. Sometimes I want to just pick up a game and have a laugh for a couple of hours on a club night. Other times, I really want to take it. Or you know how it's enjoyable to take it seriously. Sometimes we don't really take it seriously, but you think you're making important decisions about your wargaming and whether you should move that tank or whether you should save that infantry unit that's about to get overrun. Sometimes I like to do that. So I like all sorts of wargaming, and people out there like all sorts of wargaming. There's room for loads of Ancients rules. There's room for loads of World War II rules.
So you're saying that Mike and Annie kind of introduced you. So how did you two guys actually get together?
Well, Stuart emailed me, or I can't remember if it was Annie that actually emailed me and said, would this be something I'd be interested in? And really, I just jumped at the chance because, for me, obviously the rules have done well, they've sold well, but it's still a sort of self-published set of rules that they haven't been available at shows and in shops. And that's been, I think, a sort of sticking point in terms of getting them more widely known. So I really just jumped at the chance then of getting them published in a sort of more professional publication as well, which is obviously something that Stuart would be able to bring to the table. So we spoke on the phone and had a few emails going backwards and forwards, and then just went from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was actually really quick and easy to set it all up and get the ball rolling. Yeah.
Okay, so. Obviously, at that point, with new distribution, I suppose at that point a decision was made. Oh, well, in that case, then we need to produce a second edition. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not it's called a second edition, but there's hardly any changes to the rules. There was never really an intention for there to be changes to the rules. There's a few changes that were basically happened anyway that was already being discussed on my forum, and I'd sort of was putting in anyway. And then obviously it's been an opportunity to clear up. There was really only a couple of items in the errata anyway. After the first year of being played, there was about 3 items in the errata, and so there's a chance to clear up those. Can I say a couple of minor changes to the rules, but most of the sort of the most significant change really then is going to be in the sort of actual production of it, like the photographs, artwork, and then there's some sort of boxes with tactical advice in, something Stuart's done in some of his other rules, where there's a sort of a general's head giving you some tactical advice. So that's a sort of addition, but there's very little changes to the rules. So the talk of a second edition has had a few people sort of talking on some of the forums, sort of saying second edition already, but it's not really a second edition in the sense of being any significant changes. The whole purpose behind it is to get the rules available in the shops and at shows, not to be a big change so that everyone now has to go out and buy a new copy, all those people that have already bought it.
Yeah, so as I say, I was going to say exactly that point. There was, I noticed as soon as it was kind of announced, some people were kind of going, "Hang on a second, it's not been out that long."
Yeah. I mean, I definitely didn't want there to be big changes. I didn't want. I know a lot of people have been stung in the past with this sort of thing happening, where rules sort of come out and the old ones are obsolete, and they now have to go and buy a new book. And it isn't like that at all. Anyone that's got the first edition, the Sword and Spear rules at the moment, can play the same game. There's about 3 or 4 minor changes that you can download on a sheet from the forum, from the website. I say they're all changes that have been discussed and put in really over the last couple of months anyway. So there's no need for anyone to go out to feel like they have to go out and buy the new book.
Now, interestingly, especially since we've just been discussing this in context with Iron Cross, with the fact that you got this new publishing deal, with you self-publishing, the rules are available either obviously via Lulu or as a PDF. Will that continue to be this? Will that continue to be the same? Obviously, especially the conversation we've just had, Stuart. Is it more a case of these are primarily going to now be printed rules?
Yeah, they're primarily going to be printed rules because the whole objective is to get them into stores and to get them into shows, so that people can pick them up and have a look and buy them. Again, Iron Cross is separate from this, so
yeah, sure.
Our policy on Iron Cross does not dictate our policy on sword and spear. That's something for Mark and I to discuss and to deal with in a separate manner. Again, I'm not averse to the whole idea of PDF rules. I've actually done a couple of PDF source books before. It's just not something I'm very experienced in, and I'm not particularly confident about PDF rules. My main objective is the thing that I bring to Sword and Spear is getting some production and getting it distributed and more widely known, and to get the people that are already playing Sword and Spear, to get them some more opponents.
Which is always good.
Oh, yeah, because I say that the main. I mean, people have sort of said that they'd like to see it more at shows. You haven't been able to buy it at shows and in wargame shops, so that's going to be the thing this is going to bring to it. It's just the thing of getting it more known. People will see it more because there's sort of, you can mention it on a forum and there'll still be people saying that what's this game? I haven't heard of it. Whereas you get it at shows, people visible on stands and in wargame shops, it should hopefully get a lot more people talking about it and playing it. And as Stuart says, there are more opponents for the people that have already got the rules. So it's just sort of getting the rules more widely known, getting them more available.
Yeah, which would be great, because the only person I've really got to play against is Annie, and she keeps beating me. So
yeah, I mean, they seem to have taken off well in sort of pockets. There's certain clubs, a couple of people play it and they get more people into it, which I know is the way these things always happen. But just the fact that if we can get it more out there, then people might see it in one place and see it somewhere else as well. And they think, oh, I'll have a look at that. And they look it up online and see some good reviews. And then they're more likely to sort of give it a try. Just the fact that it is going to be more visible.
And it is good that you've had a chance to actually go back and just clarify a few things.
Yeah, there was a few little minor issues that needed clarifying. So yeah, it's just a good opportunity for that as well.
Okay, for instance.
Well, the rules changes or the sort of clarification. I mean, the clarifications, there was really literally was sort of about three things at one point. At one point in one paragraph, it said the defending unit, and it wasn't completely clear, and it should have said the enemy unit. So there's just one or two very minor things like that. The only sort of real rules changes is that we've toned down the effect of heavy armor because troops with heavy armor did tend to be a bit unbeatable, unless you're fighting them with two-handed weapons or elephants, which would ignore armor. So it's toned down the effect of heavy armor slightly, and put in a new troop, well, not troop type, but a new ability for archers that can fight in melee, that are quite capable of fighting in melee. So things like 100 Years' War English archers and Persian immortals that were capable of fighting well in melee as well as in shooting. So there's a new characteristic to allow troops to do that. But really that's it in terms of rules changes. So it was nothing that you couldn't just sort of pencil into your rule book or have on a piece of paper that you print off and just put with the book. So it's no more than you'd get in a lot of rules errata anyway. So there's no sort of question of it being a significant changed second edition that's going to then mean people's old ones are obsolete or anything like that.
Plus, of course, you've also had a chance to go back and look at the army lists as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I've redone the points because there was. I mean, obviously with any army list and any point system, it's a bit of a sort of try some values out and see how they go. And however much playtesting you do on your own in your own group, and even with other groups of playtesters, that's still nowhere near as much is going to happen when the rules get played for a whole year by lots of other people. So there was nothing sort of broken particularly, just a couple of tweaks really. I've just changed the balance of the points so that better quality units are slightly more points and lower quality units are slightly less compared to average units. But it's not the sort of change that you're suddenly going to get 3 extra units in your army. It's quite a relatively minor change again, but it'll make it slightly more balanced, I think, in terms of the points. And then I've put the points for Light Horse down slightly as well, because it seemed to be a consensus of opinion that Light Horse were overpriced. But it's an opportunity just to make a few changes like that as well.
Okay. Now, up until this point, the army lists have been available online. Are there any plans now to actually publish them in books?
Not for me, no. No plans like that.
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned, they'll just stay available for free. That's not something I've discussed with Stuart, but I've got no intention of making any changes there.
But you have moved them from PDFs, haven't you, into spreadsheets? So
well, I haven't redone the PDFs yet for the changeover the points values. I'm going to. So they're available on a spreadsheet so that people could sort of have a look and make sure the spreadsheets all look okay. But there's sort of I was aiming to coincide it with the sort of the go live of the version 2, which is I think it's going to be the 30th of November. I know they're available for pre-order now. So in the next weekend or so, I will actually sort of then redo all the PDFs of the army lists so that they are all using the up-to-date point system. I didn't want to do it sort of piecemeal because then there'd be a bit of confusion about which ones they were. So I'm going to try and get it all done. Probably not this weekend, but probably the weekend after next. Try and get that all done in one weekend. So all the PDFs will then be using the sort of the version 2 points calculation.
Right. Okay, and as far as price point is concerned, is there any change there?
I think it's about the same, isn't it, Mark?
Yeah, it's because it was £14, I think, wasn't it, on Lulu? I can't remember, I think. And it's £15 now, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
But free postage, wasn't it? Or was that just for the pre-order? I think it was free UK postage, isn't it, on the pre-order?
It's always going to be free postage for the UK.
Okay, so that's good then, yeah. And the overseas postage rates were pretty reasonable, weren't they? I think from what I saw.
Yeah.
Was it £4.50 or something like that? Yeah. So it's
that's £4.50 to the rest of the world. Europe, it's a bit less than that.
Yeah, so it's pretty reasonable. Yeah. But yes, a similar price. Yeah. And obviously, you're getting a much better produced book. And again, that might be something that's put some people off buying it before, the fact that it was self-published. I think I did a reasonable job of it, but I'm an amateur as far as the sort of the layout and the photography and all that side of it goes. And it was all my own photography, generally of my own figures. In the original books, and now obviously that's all been redone by Stuart. So all professional photography with professionally painted figures, and a wider variety of figures, more sort of 28mm figures as well, with some different basing styles. So that it's just generally going to be a much better book.
Oh, right. So basically, the fact that the rules, although the fact that the rules haven't changed, other than that, it's actually a completely different publication.
Yeah.
Except for the fact it hasn't changed. Sorry. I'm trying desperately not to confuse the issue here. Okay, so the rules haven't changed, but the layout and the illustrations and everything have been completely revamped.
That's right. Yeah. It's just going to be it's going to be professionally done as opposed to an amateur publication that it was before. Because I've had no prior experience of anything like that in terms of, sort of publication. But obviously that's what Stuart does in his company. So it's going to now be a professionally designed and put together publication.
So it's coming out in the same sort of style as we've already seen with things like Dead Man's Hand and stuff, Stuart. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the aspects that I wanted to bring to it, and Mark wanted to bring to it as well, was that sometimes, you know how rules sometimes get categorized as a certain scale?
Yes.
This is a 15mm game, this is a 28mm game. Sword and Spear isn't a 15mm or a 28mm game. It can be either or. I prefer generally 20. I've got more 28mm figures. I'm not saying I would prefer, but I've got more 28mm figures. I've only got 2 or 3 15mm armies, or 3 or 4 15mm armies, and other people have got 10mm as well. So to get the whole reason for getting lots of different miniatures in was to not tie down Sword and Spear to a particular scale.
Right.
Which I think is useful, because really, if you guys have got your Ancients armies and your medieval armies out there, and you haven't played something for a while, get your figures out again. Get a copy of Sword and Spear. It doesn't matter if you're 10mm, 15mm, 28mm, whatever, and try it out, because it's perfectly suited for any of those scales.
That's right, yeah. I mean, a unit is just a unit. As long as it's got an equal frontage to the other units, it doesn't matter how many figures are in the unit or what scale they are. So, yeah, it can be perfectly well used with any scale figures. And I think that was something in my rule book, the one I did. Most of the photography was of 15mm figures because that's what I generally play with. So there is then that tendency to pigeonhole it as a sort of 15mm game. I put a few photos of some 28mm figures, but it was more like in the appendix, I'm basing on saying you can do this as well. But yeah, there's a lot more variety of scales in the one that Stuart's done, so that's going to be good. Because I answered a question on a forum this week. Somebody saying, "Can you play it with 28mm figures?" And it's like, yes, you can play it with any scale you like. It's just as suitable for any scale figures. Yeah,
and of course the movement values is just completely equated to the size of the base.
Yeah, so there's none of this, what some people, do I have to change the inches to centimetres and things like that you get with some rules was playing in a different scale. There's none of that. It's the one movement unit is half of the frontage of the unit. So it doesn't matter if you want to have huge units, you can. If you want to play with less figures and smaller units, you can. It scales equally well to any style, any size of game and any scale of figures.
So as you said, they're coming out end of the month, yeah?
Yeah, 30th of November is the release date.
Fantastic. And they'll be available from, hopefully, other than Great Escape Games, soon to be available from your friendly local game store.
Yeah, you can pre-order them from us right now, and you'll also be able to get them from your game store. So any UK game stores or European game stores that are listening to the podcast now are thinking, or any end users that are listening thinking, I wouldn't mind picking up a copy of this from my friendly local game store. You can get them from North Star Figures. Will be widely distributing them across Britain and Europe. War and Peace in Australia, and then there are 2 or 3 in the United States that will be distributing them. With the United States and Australia, obviously you'll be a little bit longer than the November 30th, but you'll have them within a couple of weeks.
I'm pleased to hear there's an Australian distributor because they have been particularly successful in Australia. There's been a couple of tournaments in Australia, and they seem to have really taken off over there. So that's going to help to make that grow even further.
Cool, good stuff. And at that point, Stu had to leave us, so we are still with Mark. And a few things we still have to cover because obviously that's second edition Sword and Spear. It's good to hear that it's been going down well, but the simple fact that you can get a completely new publication and get out to hopefully a completely new audience, is only good for the game, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can't wait to see the book. I've seen the sort of proofs that Stuart sent me, but I can't wait to get my hands on a copy of the new book. I'm really looking forward to it myself.
Me too.
Well, I was going to say, I must admit, as soon as it was like, the rules haven't changed, but I'd just like to get hold of a new copy of the book.
Yeah.
Not that I've got anything against your copy, Mark, but it's like, this sounds interesting.
I mean, the photography especially is just on a complete different level to what's in the current version of it. But then there's artwork as well. There's some sort of line illustrations, and there's the tactical advice as well, which just sort of adds to the look of it as well. So it's going to look a lot better, I think.
Okay, so and hopefully that might bring a couple of clarifications where things haven't been like that before. Yeah,
I say there's a few a few little points needed clarifying, but yeah, so it's it'll be a better book, yeah.
Yeah, but it is worth stressing that the current book, if you've got that, you can go on to Mark's forum, get the errata.
Yeah, that's right.
It's exactly the same.
Yeah,
it's a similar thing to what we did with Saga and with Cousin Lacrosse. They're both exactly the same rules, but one has just been tightened up.
Yeah,
just to take out some of the the misunderstandings that people can get. So it's all good stuff.
Yeah, and I've actually put the FAQ. The FAQ is in the new book as well. And again, that's something you can download from the website. But I just thought there's a lot of questions that come up over and over again that have come up on the forum, and most of them they're things that are actually explained in the rules. But a lot of it is differences to other games where people think one thing's going to happen because of what they're used to in other games, and it isn't like that in Sword and Spear. So the FAQ, and that's now going to be in the actual rule book as well. So it makes it a little bit easier to refer to it as well in there.
Good stuff. Now we've made. Now we've already kind of hinted at and made a couple of mentions of this And obviously, when we originally talked to you, which was back in episode 142, if people want to go back and listen to our original re-recorded interview with Mark.
It was in February, and I know that because when I logged on to Skype, the last time I used Skype was in February, so this is the only time I ever use it.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, that was, yes, and that was, that is the, including some of the recordings that certain people like Mr. Luff will not let me forget because I lost because losing the one that he was on. But we won't go back there and reopen old wounds. But yeah, even then, you were talking about the fact that where you wanted to take Sword and Spear next. I mean, so obviously now we've got a second edition, bigger distribution, but we were talking about a fantasy version of the game.
Yeah,
and somebody not too far away from here has been involved in some playtesting of the fantasy game. So I suppose it's an ideal opportunity to catch up and say, what's happening with the fantasy version of Sword and Spear?
Yeah, well, the rules are progressing well. I had hoped to actually publish them in the summer of this year, which I probably said on the last podcast. I'm sort of behind where I was hoping to be. But the main reason for the delay has been because of this the thing with Great Escape Games, and because of Stuart offering to publish Sword and Spear. That's been the sort of my focus recently. And then I was waiting to see how this went before I discussed about possibly publishing the fantasy rules, and it looks like now that Stuart is happy for Great Escape Games to publish Sword and Spear Fantasy as well. So that's excellent news. It means I don't have to take photos of loads of figures myself. And I couldn't do that anyway, because last time I did it with the main rules, I did it all out in the garden to get the light right, and I don't think I'd be able to do that at the moment, not having a photographic studio myself. So that's great news. Great Escape Games are going to publish the fantasy rules as well. So we haven't got any sort of time scale for that yet. They're nearly finished. There's not that many changes in terms of the mechanisms to the normal Sword and Spear rules. So it's really obviously it's the fantasy editions like magic and monsters and heroes and flying creatures. Now, all of those, the rules for all of those, I'm completely happy with. We've done lots of playtest games. The only thing that I'm not completely finalised yet is the rules for Undead. So I've been doing some playtesting recently on Undead, and I want the Undead to feel quite different to just having a normal army. And they do feel quite different. They've got a sort of different activation. They need magic to activate them. So really it's just getting those rules finalised, and then they're going to be finished really and ready for publication. So I'll probably try and get something over to Stuart soon, because even if I haven't completely finished playtesting the Undead, he'd certainly he'd be able to start work on the layout. So I haven't discussed him in terms of what his timescale's like. He may be busy with other things, but I'll probably aim to get something to him quite soon so that he can get started as soon as he's got some time. So yeah, so that it's coming on, and it hopefully won't be too long then.
Okay, so when it comes down to armies for fantasy, is it all kind of standard stuff that we've seen before with, whether it be Warhammer Fantasy Battle or what have you, or that style of type of armies, or are we looking something slightly different?
Well, it's going to be completely up to the players what they want to use. There's not going to be any. Well, I'll put some sample army lists available on my website, but there's not going to be any sort of strict army lists. So I'm not going to put army lists up and say this is an orc army, this is what you have to have in an orc army. It's going to be completely up to the players. It still uses the same troop definitions as Sword and Spear. Obviously, there's some extra things relating to fantasy rules. There's some extra sort of characteristics, but there's not that many of those. There's not going to be huge differences between different troop types. Your orcs are still going to be heavy foot, probably heavy foot with impact for the normal sort of orc warriors. Orc cavalry or orc wolf riders are going to be classed as cavalry or beasts. Beast is a new troop type, but there's not a lot of new troop types and new characteristics, because it is meant to be a sort of a big battle game where a unit of orc spearmen isn't going to operate a lot different to a unit of human spearmen, or maybe even a unit of elf spearmen, although the unit of elf spearmen would probably be better quality. That's still just reflected in the discipline rating, just like it is with sword and spear. So it's really going to be up to the individual, what they see, how they see their army operating. If you want your orc warriors to be medium foot, that's fine. If you want them to be heavy foot, that's fine. If you want to give them certain abilities within the rules, that's fine as well. It's just up to the players how they want to categorise their armies.
Oh, right. So is it going to be? So is it more of a case then? You have your unit definitions, and then you have your racial definitions, and it boils down to it's a mix and match. It's a mix and match between the two. And then, in that case, how do things like, I don't know, I have to ask the question because obviously in sword and spear, armies have points. So how is there a particular way that points are calculated, or how does all that hang together if you're not actually producing a army list per se?
Well, there's no sort of racial characteristics. There's just standard army unit characteristics. So if you want all your orcs to be undrilled, which is probably quite likely, then you class your units as undrilled. There's no sort of army special rules or army characteristics. Or
so there's so there's nothing recommended to say, well, hang on a second, this is how this is the archetypal type of orc unit.
No, not at all. I'll make suggestions. I'll put suggested army lists up on the website, but it's purely on how players see those particular troops operating. They're free to do what they like then, and build their armies as they like.
The best way to describe it, Neil, is it's sort of similar to what they're doing with open combat, where you've got troop definitions. You've got your medium foot, your heavy foot, your light foot, and so on. But you've also then got abilities, and it's how you put the abilities with the troop types. So you basically model your unit. So, as Mark said, if I've got a unit of elf bowmen, I say, okay, so this is a medium unit because they're elves and they run fast. But because they're elves and they can move fast, I'm going to give them the ability to make them sort of like speed, where they can move an extra MU during their movement. And I'm going to give them longbows, and I might give them the ability of eagle eye, which makes or something like that.
And you'd probably give them melee capable, so they can fight equally well in hand to hand as well.
Yeah. And it's exactly how you model your unit. So very similar concept. And I've done it loads of times, during the play testing, just looking at the figures I've got and going, right, okay, so that base there, okay, that's an Empire spearman, so that's just basic medium infantry. Bang, that one's done. Just write it down, and you do it that way. And the point system is done from that. So every ability has a points value attached to it, and you just basically just do the maths.
Right. Now, I can see that as both a good and a bad thing. If you understand where we're coming from.
Some people like to have more sort of army flavour,
or even a case of it's just more prescriptive, as opposed to kind of so basically I've got to sit down and sort it all out myself. Now, to be honest, I think that's brilliant. Yeah, I'm very much doing that because you model your army based on the sort of fantasy genre that you're into, because let's face it, not all orcs and not all elves are the same.
No, exactly.
Depending on which
what books you're reading.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whether it's Tolkien or whether it's Games Workshop or what have you.
Yeah.
So not everything is equal. So giving that option to build the army as you wish, is great for a particular type of gamer.
Yeah, but for those players that want a more sort of prescribed list, I will be putting up sample army lists for all of the main sort of fantasy armies, like orcs, elves, goblins, undead, lizardmen. I will be making those available, so if somebody doesn't want to sort of have to think about what these are going to be, what those are going to be, I will be making those sort of lists available as well.
Right, okay. Because the one thing I was thinking of, because obviously from the historical side of things, you've got the army lists available, and that's what people play. And I mean, especially thinking in terms of when people use these sort of things and want to play tournaments, for example.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, historically, the army list is there. That's what you work to. If that isn't the case in fantasy, and from our understanding, especially having talked to Annie a few weeks ago and stuff, that actually, the fantasy tournament scene is very much alive and well, and maybe there are people out there who maybe want to try something different as far as a fantasy army is concerned, but are used to having very prescriptive army lists, as opposed to let's devise our own. Ultimately, you have to have something more prescribed if you're having a more organised style of play.
I don't know.
I don't think you have to. No. Go on, Mike. Sorry.
I was just going to say, whenever you build a unit, the abilities that you put into it cost points. So if you turn around and say, okay, for this tournament, we are going to play a 300-point game. Work out your own army lists, as long as they're legal army lists. Work out whichever units you want to have in that army list. So if you want to have a massive, great bunch of Uber units, well, you're probably going to get 2 or 3 of them, and that's your entire army, because you point up a bunch of dragons that can which have flight and terror and every other ability you want to pile into it. Great. It then comes down to quality over quantity. So I think it would balance, and also, if Mark and Stu had a figure range, then I could understand them having prescriptive army lists for that figure range. But because they don't have figure ranges, and this is a set of rules to cover all different scales of fantasy, all different manufacturers of fantasy, all different types of fantasy genres, I don't think you can have prescriptive army lists, because as soon as you do that, people go, well, why have you done a elf list, which is based similar to something out of Games Workshop, when I want to play Tolkien-esque elves, or I want to play, humans from Michael Moorcock's sort of universe, instead of humans from Up universe.
Yeah. Or you say, I've got this model, I've got this figure. That isn't represented in your army list. How do I use it? So I want people to be able to use whatever they've got and put their armies together however they like.
Yeah, and this is exactly what I did during the playtesting. I just looked at that. I used my War Master armies, so 10mm GW armies. I took them all off the bases. I put them all onto 18mm wide bases, and I had all different types of units. And I thought, okay, I can do. My elves, I can have a unit of bowmen with a unit of spearmen behind them. So that could be one type of figure. Or I can put all bowmen onto one base. That's another type of unit. So I found myself actually putting units together and then writing the army list from that. And I had a very balanced army.
Yeah, exactly. You could decide that in your world, elves and bowmen fight in mixed units, like the sort of Persian Sparabara or Immortal type units where they have spears and bows. You could decide that's how elves fight in your world and have the units sort of accordingly.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So from a I suppose a game style sort of thing, we're looking at something which is very much more along the lines of something like, I don't know, Hordes of the Things, for want of a better phrase. Yeah.
More like that, where it's completely flexible as to what you want. If you want all heavy foot, or if you want all armored heavy foot, and you bring, obviously you should try and do it according to the figures you've got, rather than trying to do it to think what is the best type of unit to have in this army. But if you want an army of all armoured heavy foot, use dwarfs, and that's perfectly reasonable to class them all as armoured heavy foot if that's the figures you've got.
Sounds perfectly fine to me.
Yeah. But if all you've got is armoured heavy foot, you're probably going to get outflanked because you're not going to have the cavalry and things like that. But so generally in Sword and Spear, a more sort of combined arms army works anyway. So it's probably not going to be the case of people going, oh, I'm just going to have knights in my army, or I'm just going to have this one type of troop. But one thing it does do, it does make it means it's going to be a real test of the point system. Because as an example, I think elephants were probably slightly too cheap in Sword and Spear, and I've made them sort of 1 point higher, which then gets multiplied, so they're a little bit more expensive. But if elephants are a little bit too cheap in Sword and Spear, that hasn't really been a big problem because no army is going to have, most armies anyway, aren't going to have more than 1 or 2 units. So maybe if those elephants should have been 10 more points, it's not going to be a big difference in the overall army. But in a fantasy army, you might come up with 8 units of giant beasts, sort of the equivalent of elephants. And if those units are all a little bit too cheap because there's a little bit of a sort of anomaly in the point system, that is going to show up a lot more. So it's going to be more of a test of the point system, and it means I've sort of got to get the points right, or as right as can be, more so really with the fantasy rules. But I'm going down the same route of not publishing the points in the rule book to give myself that flexibility to change the points if a year down the line we think, okay, that isn't quite right, then I'm going to retain that the ability to do that.
Yeah, it also means that you will just have to change one document because you basically just change the sort of toolkit document.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and then all the army lists will just get updated on the website because if you do publish rules with a point system in them, and then sort of 6 months down the line you think, oh yeah, that after this extra 500 games that people have now played and told me about, that wasn't quite right, those points said, and then you've got a problem, haven't you? Because suddenly you get to a point where you've got to change things that people have actually got sort of written in print. So that's why I've kept the points out of the rule books.
But it's quite funny what you were saying about the undead, because that was one of the first armies that I think we started playtesting was, how do we do undead?
Yeah.
It definitely was the first one I did because I had some undead there and I wanted to play them. And there's been a lot of talk about how you model the undead without breaking the rules that you got for standard armies.
Yeah.
And I think the rules
they have to be different. You want them to play differently. They don't take discipline tests because there's no sort of morale there. So that the combat results are different, and the way they activate is different as well. They need magic to activate, so it does make them play quite differently. And it's just then getting the balance right, really, so that they're not too powerful or too weak in terms of combat and how easy it is to activate them. So that's the sort of thing I'm still working on. I've played a few games the last couple of weeks, and I've made a few changes, but I think I'm nearly there. I think. I mean, I'm not completely happy about the rules for flying, but the problem with any flying rules is you can't actually have units flying around above the table. So when you have flying units, it's very difficult to have rules for them for what happens when they move over an enemy unit, if their move ends on top of an enemy unit, for example, and it's hard to do it without being quite clunky. It's one of these things I think I'd never be completely happy with unless you can actually somehow suspend the unit in the air above the other units.
Yeah, I think the fight rules are quite interesting, the way you've done them. I mean, obviously we don't give too much away, but that was one of the key ones for me, and also magic use as well. I think the way the magic use has evolved over the last 6-8 months. Yeah,
again, I didn't want magic to be too big a part of the game. Obviously, it's fantasy, so there has to be magic, but there aren't sort of huge spell lists or anything like that. What I've always wanted with these rules is for people just to be able to sort of pick it up and play with a little bit of this is how you play. Here's an army, go ahead and play it. And I think you can still do that with the fantasy rules, where if you've got sort of huge lists of magic spells and you say to somebody, right, there's your magic user, he's got these 10 spells, you can't then just carry on and play the game because you need to look up what all these spells do and see how they all work. Whereas magic is quite limited in its effect to attacking enemy units or boosting friendly units or rallying units. So there's only a sort of very few things you can do in Magic. They all can be quite powerful, especially when you boost friendly units. You give the friendly units extra combat dice. But the idea is that there's no spell lists. That when you boost a friendly unit, you could be making the men fight. They could making them stronger. You could be giving them magic, enchanting their weapons. You could be having illusions helping them. You could be affecting the enemy unit in various different ways. But you can decide yourself what you can make up yourself what that magic is actually doing. But the effect is that it makes your friendly unit stronger in combat.
Yeah. As I say, ultimately, when you when you boil down Magic to what it's doing, it doesn't matter ultimately, it doesn't matter the type of spell.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether it's a fireball or a lightning bolt.
Yeah.
The point is, it's actually doing damage.
Yeah, it's the effect of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you attack an enemy unit, you could pretend it's a fireball, a lightning bolt. You could pretend it's an illusionary dragon or a fear spell. It could be Gandalf riding down at Helm's Deep. Gandalf with his sort of his staff shining bright lights in the enemy faces. That could be your attack spell. So it can be used in a sort of relatively low magic environment like Lord of the Rings to still sort of create those kind of effects that you'd see in the film. And obviously he could be boosting friendly units. That could be more of a sort of morale effect, not necessarily sort of casting fireballs and things around. But yeah, it's the effect is that you attack the enemy unit or boost the friendly unit. And it is something you can, if you've played Sword and Spear Ancients and Medieval, you can pick up the fantasy rules very quickly, and I wanted that to be the case. So that if you play occasionally and just sort of every few months think, we'll have a fantasy game, you don't have to sort of go back and look up all the spells and see what they all do and see how they all interact with each other and with the units.
Plus, you got the fact that you can actually mix and match. You can literally have, a historical army versus a
definitely,
fantasy army.
Yeah, and quite a lot of my fantasy armies are based on historical armies anyway. So you just sort of add a dragon to your medieval army, and it's a fantasy army. Or add a dragon and a couple of wizards, and you can do that with any historic armies. You can sort of add some sort of minotaurs into your Roman or your Greek army, and have a sort of turn your historic armies into fantasy ones.
Cool, sounds really good. So I should say, at the moment, no fixed date on when this is being published. Obviously, because of the fact that you just haven't had the conversation with Stuart yet.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, but the good news is the fact that these are going to be published in the same way as the second edition of Sword.
Yeah. So it will be a professional publication, a very nice professional publication. Yeah,
and freely available, and perhaps more freely available than Sword and Spear has been.
Yes, yeah. I mean, and I think there's a good market for it at the moment. A lot of the people are sort of asking about but often see on the forums people asking about sort of generic fantasy rules, and especially now with the sort of demise of Warhammer Fantasy, it could be a very good time for it with people with these fantasy armies with nothing to do with them.
Yeah, given the solidity of the rule set that they're based on.
Yeah,
and that ultimately, Sword and Spear itself is a really good game. The fact that that's obviously the basis on which to build.
Yeah,
and so the whole point of being able to market that out into a slightly different audience, as you say, all these people all of a sudden have all these square-based fantasy armies that they just don't know what to do with anymore.
Yeah,
and the other thing, when it comes to army lists and things, there's nothing stopping somebody writing an army list based on a, shall we say, Games Workshop army and posting it on the forum. As long as you don't use the name, as long as it's not done for sold for, it's something. Here we go. Here's one I wrote for my GW Dwarves. Bang.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, it's nothing that hasn't been done before, and we've seen in the same way as generic sci-fi rules in the past have produced army lists which say, okay, well, if you have an army that use similar figures similar to this, then this is what you can do with it. So there's no difference, is there?
No.
Cool. I'm really looking forward to them.
I think a lot of people are, because a lot of people have said about when the fantasy rules going to be available. And say they've been delayed because of the Sword and Spear second edition, and I just haven't really had as much time as I'd hoped recently to be working on them. It's just playing lots of other games as well. Sometimes that's the problems of being a rules writer. You also want to play lots of other games as well. You can't purely focus on and my group doesn't want to purely focus on playtesting my rules as well, because there's lots of other games we like to play, so I never really get to play as many games as I would like.
Yeah, well, I hope they come out soon because that will finally give me the excuse to buy that whole bunch of cobblestone fantasy armies that I've been promising myself forever.
Yeah, I've got some nice cobblestone 15mm figures. I've got some barbarians and some. I think the cobblestone ones. I've got the bear riders and stag riders. Some very nice figures. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's going to be my sort of fantasy Viking army. They're the fantasy touches to add to my historical Vikings to make it a fantasy Viking army.
Oh, nice! I've actually just found my Callister orcs, which I bought a while ago.
Yeah,
I might start painting those up.
Yeah, good. Yeah,
good stuff. So you say you've been playtesting lots of rules. So what else have you been working on?
Well, I've been playing lots of other games, I say, not playtesting lots of rules, and I've just playing lots of other games. But no, the only other thing I've sort of been working on of my own recently, I've been working on some fantasy and medieval and ancient skirmish rules. So some sort of generic skirmish rules. So I've got some other rules that's still available on my forum for download, but they're really on the back burner. I haven't done anything recent on those. But yeah, I'm working on a set of generic skirmish rules for medieval, fantasy, or ancients. And again, I think it's one of those things. There's a bit of a gap in the market. Not the sort of from a step up in terms of size to the sort of Song of Blades and Heroes and an open combat sort of size games, which are sort of up to about 20 figures. This is more like sort of 50 to 100 figures aside.
Oh, right, okay. So if you're thinking scale-wise, it's kind of Saga plus.
Yeah. And I know that obviously the Saga and Lion Rampant for medieval or for Dark Ages and medieval, and lots of people sort of say, oh, what can I use for ancients and what can I use for this and that? And people, or for bigger fancy skirmishes, and people sort of suggest Lion Rampant and Saga, but obviously they need tweaking for those periods because they're not the periods they're aimed at. So there isn't really, as far as I know, there's not really a sort of big skirmish game out there that is more sort of generic. So that's something I've been working on and played a few games, and I'm reasonably happy with most of the mechanics. It still needs some work, but I'm reasonably happy with the mechanics, and it gives a good game. It uses a dice activation system where you activate units by dice, with some sort of a little bit of a sort of connection to the way it does in Sword and Spear, but quite different as well. But yeah, it's a unit based system where you sort of activate units one at a time and fight a battle. But yeah, I think it works quite well, and I think that'll be probably my priority after Sword and Spear Fantasy is to get that going and get that published.
Right. Okay. So I suppose from a realistic timescale point of view, if people are going to ask you, I suppose Sword and Spear Fantasy is next year.
Yeah. I mean, I say I haven't really spoken to Stuart, but I would hope first half of next year. But I have no idea what Stuart's timescale is for that. And then this would be after that. I mean, I haven't really put this out for playtesters at all, really. Well, there's been one other group has playtested it, but that was a sort of a slightly earlier version of it as well. So, but when I've done a bit more work on this, I'll sort of put it out to some playtesters and then get that going. But that will be the next thing after Sword and Spear Fantasy.
All right. So, I mean, you sort of mentioned earlier that you've been playing other sorts of games, and this is something we never actually ask any of our guests, because we always got to sort of concentrate on what they're doing and what they're writing. But what other games do you play sort of regularly?
Well, I've been playing Frostgrave quite a bit recently. That's actually taken quite a lot of my time. I've been spending my gaming or my hobby time building terrain for Frostgrave. Obviously, the figures don't need that much work because I'm just using a load of my old. Actually, I'm using a load of my old D&D figures from when I was about 17, 18. It's quite nice to get them on the table again. I've sort of rebased and just sort of spruced them up a little bit and got out a load of the other fantasy figures I've sort of picked up over the years. But yeah, the terrain has been. I've been spending a bit of time working on terrain for Frostgrave, and we've played a few games of that recently, so that's been good fun. That's a good set of rules. Otherwise, it's mainly sort of board games we mainly play in our group. We generally try and get a board game in every week and a figure game in most weeks. So yeah, it's been sort of some sword and spear fantasy, and then mainly Frostgrave on the miniatures side.
Okay, so especially since it's been brought to my attention through recent conversations with people.
Mervyn.
Mervyn and was it Gavin and a couple of guys going. So whatever happened to the board game reviews you were going to do? And then someone poignantly said, "Yeah, hang on a second. Were you going to ask Mark to do that?" And it was like, yes, we were, and no, we haven't. So first off, Mark, can I apologise to you
That's okay.
for the fact that we didn't get you back on the show to talk all about board games? Yeah, obviously it is something that we have covered in the past. So you're saying you've been playing a lot of board games. I mean, what sort of thing have you been doing?
Well, we play all sorts. I mean, our group's sort of got quite big. There's always 6 or 7, or mostly 6 or 7 of us for board games. So we're a bit limited in what we can play with those numbers. We've been playing quite a lot of Last Night on Earth recently. That's what we played. That's what we played this week. That's a good fun game. But lots of other things as well. When we play all sorts of different things. I got actually it's my first ever Kickstarter. It came a few weeks ago. It was I can't remember what it's called. Tiny Epic Galaxies. I don't know if you've heard of the Tiny Epic. They come in a tiny little box, but it's a good little 5-player space exploration game. And after buying that, I've just I'm getting Tiny Epic Kingdoms, which is a sort of fantasy one by the same company for Christmas, and that's it. The box is absolutely tiny, and so the idea is that you can sort of carry it around very easily. So that's a good little game. But I think in terms of the sort of games you'd want, you were sort of wanting to look at more games, not just sort of any board games, weren't you? Not sort of Euro games and things like that. More the sort of miniature side, I suppose. Is it really?
I mean, stupidly enough, something like Last Night on Earth is exactly the sort of thing. I mean, the sort of games we've been umming and ahhing about, or in the pipeline of looking at reviewing things like Heroes of Normandy. I mean, you've got things like, obviously, we've done Imperial Assault.
Neither of which I've played.
But yeah, that
one that's coming up is Dungeon Saga.
Yeah, now Dungeon. If you want to talk about Dungeon Saga,
we had to get Mike on because he's bought it.
Well, I've not got it yet, but I have pre-ordered it, so it should be coming this month. So that's the sort of game that I think you'd want to talk about, isn't it? So yeah. I'd certainly once that's arrived and I've played that a couple of times, that would be a good one to talk about.
Yeah, and of course we're going to be talking about, I don't know, Conan.
Yeah, well, I was going to mention that as well, but obviously that might not be for a year or so. But
really, I must admit, I didn't think they were that far behind.
I don't think. No, I don't. It's 2016 anyway. It's going to be anyway, but I don't know when.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be first quarter.
No, I think it'll probably be April, maybe May.
Yeah. But that's certainly something. I'm really looking forward to that. So that's certainly something that I'd be happy to come on and talk about as well.
But despite the fact that we snubbed you for a year, you'd still be happy to come back on.
Yeah.
But we've had a bit of a serious digression. So we were talking about games that Mark's been playing. So we sorry, we'll come back to that. Yes, okay. So right, okay, let's go back to that. Okay, so Tiny Epic Galaxies.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Oh, what else have we been playing? I tried out a new Tom Wham game called Feudality last week, which was quite fun. That was another 6-player game. So I'm generally now when I sort of look to buy games, because our group tends to mainly be 6 players, I sort of try and make sure that it will cater for that many, and there aren't that many games that do.
That's quite a big number to cater for, isn't it?
We played Formula Day for the first time a couple of weeks ago, actually, as well. You know, this German motor racing board game. Yeah. So
and I'm assuming that's the new version as opposed to the old one.
I don't think it was a new version. No, I think it's one that one of my gaming groups probably had for about 20 years. Yeah, no.
I must. Because I played the classic as opposed to because it was republished. But the classic one with all the old original Formula 1 circuits and stuff.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I think
that's okay. And we sometimes play Seven Wonders. again, it's a game that caters for large numbers without much downtime.
That's a really good large number game, isn't it?
So we get quite a few different games to the table. We play board games most weeks, so we get quite a few games in. But we've played quite a lot of Last Night on Earth because that does work well with 6, and it is a good fun game. It's always a sort of always get some amusing stories coming out of it. So, just because the cards give quite a...
So do you normally do 4 people play the adventurers, 2 people play zombies?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, when there's 6 of us. Yeah. That's good. And there's quite a few different scenarios to play.
So have you tried any of the others, like any of the other games from Flying Frog? In that same ilk. Other than Last Night on Earth, they produced the kind of Witch Hunter one and...
No, I don't think so, no.
Yeah, they produced another couple of games in that similar sort of style.
Okay. No, I haven't, no. But no, I mean, it's the sort of game that when you've got one game of that style, that's all you need, really. I was just saying to one of my gaming group the other day, you need one of those type of games, and it's good to sometimes play a sort of worker placement, but you don't need 3 different worker placement games, because when you want that sort of to scratch that itch, you find the best worker placement game you've got and play that. Not that I'm a big fan of worker placement games, really, but no. I mean, we played quite a few different games, but just Last Night on Earth we've been playing quite a lot. We had quite a phase where we played Memoir 44 pretty much every week, but as a 6-player. With the ones where you get the whole board with the terrain laid out on it. Have you seen those ones?
Yes.
Yeah, because that works well with 6 players, and you can end up sort of playing the scenario twice in an evening normally. But yeah, there's only a limited number of games for that number, so we have to sort of try the ones that are. But yes, and sometimes when there's less of us, Clash of Empires was another one. No, Clash of Cultures, sorry, was another one I played recently. That's a big sort of it's a civilization game. It's probably quite quick as civilization games go.
Because it tends to be quite kind of epic and long.
Yeah, it's a civilization game that you can play in an evening, sort of 3 or 4 hours. It's sort of combat and tech trees and things. That was quite good, but quite a lot going on for a game that you play occasionally. Because it's sort of, if you play it occasionally and you have to read the rules and figure out how to play each time you play, it makes it a bit difficult then.
Did you look at Seventh Continent when I was on Kickstarter?
No. I'm not a big Kickstarter man, really. I've Tiny Epic Galaxies and Conan, and then I've backed one for some Ratham airship pirate figures. And they're the only 3 Kickstarters I've backed. So no, I'm not a big Kickstarter man, really.
No, because that was the first sort of board game I think I've sort of, well, other than the Great War. But it looks quite interesting. I quite like the idea of having this sort of world-building game that you can pack up and then restart. So it's almost got like a save feature built into it.
Right. What was that called again?
Seventh Continent.
I'll have to have a look at that.
It's almost like a fighting fantasy sort of game where you're basically going around trying to discover things and solve puzzles. But they say that the game would last about 25 hours.
Oh, wow. Is it co-op?
Yeah. Or you can play solo.
Right, okay. I'm not that keen on co-op games, really.
Yeah. But this one is basically, once you play a couple of hours and you get bored, you can pack it up. And save it, and you basically, it's almost like saving a computer game, and you basically restart again.
Interesting, yeah. I don't mind co-op, sort of semi-co-op, when there's one overlord, like there will be in Conan, and like there is in Imperial Assault, I think. But I'm not that keen on just sort of strict co-op games, really.
Oh, so I can't talk to you about Thunderbirds then?
No.
Because Thunderbirds is brilliant.
But it's co-op, is it?
Thunderbirds, yeah. It's Matt Leacock, who is the Pandemic Forbidden Island.
Yeah.
That went out to Kickstarter backers a few weeks ago.
Oh right, yeah.
And got to play it the other week because I convinced my mate, my other mate Dave, who's a guy I work with, because he's a huge Thunderbirds fan. He bought the game, and we got to play it the other week, and it's brilliant.
Oh yeah.
But as I say, if you're not into co-ops, then yeah.
No, I mean, I'd sort of play it, but it's not. I wouldn't play a co-op or buy a co-op out of choice normally. No.
Well,
Okay.
well, this has been a quite nice little chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should have to have you more often.
This time next year.
No, we'll try and get you in February, March, maybe April. No later than June.
Yeah.
Mind you, having said that, now we've spoken to you and you managed to turn that big fan off that we had.
It won't be so much problem editing it, hopefully.
So, Mark, it's been great to chat.
Yeah, it's been great being on again.
Thanks for coming on. Once again, thank you for producing what is still one of my all-time favourites.
It's dropped down your recently played games, though, hasn't it, on the website?
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's because primarily we've just been playing Chain of Command.
Yeah.
That's because you built a board and you're damn well going to use it.
I mean, having said that, the one thing with getting that playmat that we did for playing
To the strongest?
To the strongest, I'm going to say that. Yes, that was a set of ancient rules that shall not be named in Mark's presence. Yeah.
No, they sound very. I'm quite tempted to get them myself and have a go. Actually, it sounds very interesting.
They're quite board game like.
Yeah, the mechanics sound very interesting. Though the activation mechanics, I liked what I heard about them.
Yeah. They're very good, Mark, and you can play them with your sword and spear armies.
Yeah.
That's what I've been doing.
Yeah.
But actually, one of the things was because interestingly, with Stuart saying earlier that this whole thing about playing in different scales, and the fact that we're actually playing 6mm, which means actually you can play sword and spear on a really small board, and it still looks just as good.
Yeah.
So actually, one of the things was we've picked up this nice game mat from Deca Studios, which is dual purpose, and so actually now we've got that and stuff. I mean, sword and spear is just one thing we just haven't got back to the table because, as I say, we've been concentrating on playing World War II.
Well, once the shiny new second edition comes out, you can get a copy of that and get it on the table again.
Definitely, yeah. As I say, it is a brilliant set of rules, no doubt about it. So it's great. It is great that it will be available to a set of people who maybe haven't had a chance to get a hold of it before.
Yeah.
So wish you all the best with it, mate. I hope it goes really well.
Thanks very much, and thanks for having me on again.
Been great.
Good to speak.
Yeah, been really good.
Bye.
So thank you to Stuart and Mark. It was good to chat to them, and by the wonders of podcasting, we're recording this about 10 days after we spoke to them, and I have in my hands the second edition of Sword and Spear. Ooh, it's very pretty.
Hand those over.
Sorry?
I said hand them over. Come on.
Hand them over. They're very nice. It is amazing what a difference just doing, changing the layout does. Just because obviously the way that the first edition was laid out or what have you, was done in a particular way. This reminds, I mean, if anything, it reminds me of looking at Saga rulebook. Okay, sort of thing. Or it's very similar to Saga. It's very similar to something like Dead Man's Hand and Clash of Empires, and as I say, it's amazing how much difference it makes with the photo. The different style of photos that we talked about, and just a little bits of illustrations and what have you.
It's probably why graphics designers do get paid, quite well. Because it is an art form.
Well, this is it, I suppose. This is it. A couple of things caught my eye. First off, on page 2, and I quote, there is a line here that says, "Particular thanks go to Mervyn Douglas." Come on, Mervyn, what have you done? What haven't you told us?
Just look for the typo on page 16.
So, Mervyn, we want an explanation. Why was Mark particularly thanking you? And unless, of course, it was for cake, which we quite understand. So that was one thing, and then something else I happened to notice as I was. I mean, I caught my eye. I was leafing through, and where was it? If you're if you, gentle listener, have a copy of this in your hand, if you want to cast your eyes, possibly at the bottom right of page 11, or perhaps maybe. Yes, we'll go for maybe the bottom of page 24, or the top right of page 25 even. And somewhere else. Oh, here we go. The bottom left of page 31. We've got some figures, and it says, from the collection of Mike Hobbs. Hey up, Mike.
And your pointers?
You got some figures in here.
I have. Well, Stu was after some figures. I said, I may have some of those. So, yes. My lovely Persians and Greeks are apparently in there.
Indeed, yeah. Looking very, very nice. You did great. As I say, you did a great paint job with them, mate.
Well, funnily enough, Neil.
Sorry. Listen, that was an in-joke. Yeah, there was a knowing comment about that.
Because I didn't paint them. No, they're ones which are painted by Gareth from Editon Miniature Figure Painting, who's very good.
He is very good.
We will put his details into the show notes. I think Stuart was meant to put a link or put a note to say that they were painted by Gareth, but I think he may have lost that memo. So apologies to Gareth because you didn't get your name in the book. But if anybody else wants figures painted, go and see Gareth. But can you wait until he's finished my Scythians?
The Scythians that you just bought, yeah. Yeah,
the Scythians I've just bought. And I've also got some more Napoleonics to send him. And there's probably a few. I mean, give it a couple of years, right?
I was about to say, you give it a couple of years and then you can go to Gareth after that, yeah.
Well, I tell you, I was working it out. I've been sending him figures now for 3.5 years, constantly. He's that good. He's just, really good, clean.
He's that
neat.
good, and your lead pile's that big.
Well, my lead pile is that big.
No, his lead pile's bigger because he's still managing to paint some of his own figures as well.
I do paint quite a lot of my own figures, but it means that all the armies that I would never get around to doing, I just give to Gareth, and he's great. He turns around in about 6 weeks. It's fantastic. So, literally every 6 weeks, I'm sending him a pile of figures to paint up for me.
Okay. Alternatively, if you're listening to this and you really want to annoy Mike, send all your figures to Gareth now, which means that Mike won't get his Scythians painted until March. There or thereabouts.
Yeah. Or maybe don't.
Yes. Yes, but no. As I say, the rulebook is really good. As Mark mentioned, we now have there's an FAQ in the back. We've even got some sample army lists in there. Actually, it's quite interesting. Which I don't think we had in the original.
No.
So there's a couple. Hang on. There's a couple of army lists in here. What have we got? We got Macedonians. We got early Archimedes.
Ooh.
We got Scythians.
Yeah.
I think Mr. Hobbs has had far too much input into this book.
I haven't.
So there's a few army lists and various other bits and pieces, but yeah, it's looking really cool. Yeah, very nicely printed. Wow, as I say, and because the big thing is distribution, isn't it?
Yeah, that is the big thing. You know, you're going to see the book in shops. You can be able to pick it up from everywhere. So hopefully we'll have loads more people playing it.
Yeah, because they are a set of rules that massively deserve to be played because they are. I mean, I still stand by the fact that they are the best set of ancient rules that I've seen, read, played in the last 2 years.
Mm. And there's been some very strong competitors out there. I mean, when you got games like To the Strongest as well.
Yes.
Which in itself is a fantastic set of rules. So it's really hard to choose between the two.
Yeah.
But then you don't have to, because you can use the same figures in both sets of rules.
Indeed.
So
And at the same time, as we're recording this, we've just seen War and Empire, which again is looking an interesting set of rules.
Yeah.
Again, got some stuff that we haven't seen before. Some interesting mechanics in that. Another very strong set of ancient rules. But at the moment, I would potentially still say that Sword and Spear are about the best around.
Personally, I would say that if you're unsure, just buy them both. Buy To the Strongest and Sword and Spear, and then when War and Empire comes out, buy that as well.
Yeah, because you can use the same armies with everything, and I mean, at the end of the day, for the sake of a few pounds, you got 3 different systems you can play around, and obviously it may be a case of Sumia Gaming Power. Well, they each give a different experience, don't they? They each give a slightly different take on things, a slightly different way of doing things. But
and none of them are WAB. Thank God.
There is that.
Yeah. Gosh. I've also got another apology to throw out there as well.
Have you?
Yeah. Because at the Harewood show, when we were chatting to Mervyn, special thanks go to Mervyn.
Yeah.
I did turn around, because Mervyn asked me about the fantasy version of Sword and Spear, and I turned around and said that it was delayed because Mark and Stu were working together on it. And that was a complete lie, because I didn't actually know. And in fact, Mark and Stu didn't actually know that they were going to be working together on the fantasy version. They hadn't actually had that conversation. So I just got my tongue twisted around. Because what I meant to say was Mark and Stu are working on the historical version, so the fantasy one's been pushed back. But somehow I said that they were working on the fantasy version. As it happens now, they are, because they just said so.
Yes.
But at that time...
At that point, they wouldn't.
Yeah.
And you had no prior knowledge, so it was just...
No. I don't even know why I said it.
So you were just making stuff up on the spot?
I was just making up all sorts of rubbish, you know me.
Yeah.
Anyone would think you were a journalist. Good grief.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, also, the interesting thing about the fancy one is I assume it's going to be element-based again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Means all you folks with big blocks of figures for Kings of War, guess what? Buy another set of fantasy rules.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's certainly going to be fully compatible. And as I say, again, they sound really interesting, and have got me. As I said, have got me gazing at those Copplestone figures and kind of going, yeah, I really, really do need to build myself a couple of Lord of the Rings armies. It's something. It's one thing that has to be. It's one thing that potentially has to be done next year. Because I admit this is never going to happen. But originally, I was thinking, next year I probably don't have to buy anything. Fingers crossed.
Sorry, I had something just caught my foot there.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah. I mean, I do realise the complete stupidity of what I've just said, but yes, I do have my eye on some 10mm fantasy specifically for the fantasy version of Sword and Spear. So I'm quietly excited about those. But trouble is, I have no one to play with it because Luffy doesn't play fantasy.
Well, you've got a son, haven't you? You can just train him up.
Oh, that's it. That's it, you see. See, that's it. So yes. So hopefully we'll get around to it. So yes, that's the new edition of Sword and Spear is looking absolutely gorgeous, and for £15, it's a bargain. It is good. Silence and dead air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we were just thinking about. I'm sorry. I was just looking at the Copplestone 10mm because I haven't got any of those.
Yeah, because they were originally produced for War Master.
Were they?
Well, they came out at they came out at 10 mil, and and the reason there's a reason why there's 6 strips to a pack, because originally they were produced for War Master.
Wow.
Who knew?
But they are very pretty.
They are.
That's my life.
I was quite lucky last year or so. I got hold of a copy of Battle of the Five Armies.
Yes, you did, didn't you?
Yeah. And I've got all those painted up now and based for this. So, yeah, those copper ones do look nice.
Yeah. But of course you painted those yourself, didn't you, mate?
Yeah. Yeah. I do paint up quite a lot of stuff myself. It's just, it means that the other half of stuff, which I never get around to, I can send off to Gav at ADC Painting. Let's be honest. I get dead bored painting armies. Oh, it just bores the living daylights out of me. So I'd much rather give them to somebody who'll paint them and get them back in 6 weeks and play them.
So is this the reason why you much prefer playing warband games?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
you've got about a dozen figures.
Yeah. Honestly, that is the reason. I get you put 10 figures of the same in front of me, and I'll sit there and stare at them for months and months and months because I just get bored. Even sort of, I tried to do a platoon for Chain of Command. What's that? 30 figures.
Yeah.
No, I got 6 figures in. I thought I can't be asked for this. Just basically shoved them into a box, came to Gareth, and they came back 6 weeks later, painted, based, and ready to go.
Oh, right, so that's what happened to my Americans.
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
Oh, God, yeah, he's done all those.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it's great. There is sense in it. I mean, obviously, I'm quite lucky. I've got a bit of a budget to do it. But it just means I just drip, every month he gets a pile off me, and they come back and based, ready to go. They go on the table. Or in the case of you Americans, they sit in the shelf because I haven't played Chain of Command for ages. But,
Basically, my OCD kind of kicks in with anything. With anything I bought, kind of, well, if I'm playing with it and it's my army, it really has to be something that I've actually painted. So the fact that I've been playing Chain of Command with Mike's 15mm German army this year, Mike, you don't know how much secret anxiety, anguish, and pain that's caused me.
Actually, that's why you're losing.
Probably. Because I keep going, I can't take that. I can't take this support I wanted because Mike hasn't painted it and hasn't given it to me. It's all your fault, obviously.
Don't be dissing my figures for your lousy tactics.
What's wrong with charging?
Yes, there's a time and a place for it. Crimea, perfect example.
I think on that note, we need to draw our conversation to a bit of a close. Perhaps. Right, so as we've already hinted, on the next show, which by a remarkable piece of efficiency, we've actually already recorded the main bit of.
Very good. It's very, very good.
It's marvellous. Unfortunately, Mr. Whitaker isn't on it, or isn't on the interview bit.
Half of the course.
You can come back stronger next year, mate. So on the next show, we're going to be talking with Andy Cooper and Anthony Spencer about War and Empire, which is the upcoming set of rules, ancient rules from Forged in Battle. And probably just as you just as you're downloading this show, or just or a couple of days after before you've downloaded this show, the next Kickstarter for Forged in Battle went live, because it went live on the 28th of November, which is Legions of Rome. So if you want to find out all about Legions of Rome and all about War and Empire rules, then tune in to the next show, which is going to be out on the 15th of December. And we've got what turned out to be quite a big interview. It It has to be said. I think when we first recorded it, we were kind of thinking, okay, we don't know how long this is going to go on for. 3 hours later, we kind of went, yeah, that went on a bit longer than what we expected.
Man, am I glad I missed that one.
Yeah, it was a bit like that. Really good and interesting conversation with Andy and Anthony. Find out all sorts of bits and pieces. And so that's what's coming up on show 161, which is our last show before Christmas. So that's what you've got to look forward to next time round. Up until then, I just want to say thank you to Mr. Hobbs and Mr. Whitaker for joining us.
You're welcome.
No, thank you, Neil. Thank you for inviting us. That was my sincere voice.
I could tell.
Yeah. No, you're great. No, you're great.
Yeah, and before we go, I'd just like to wish Mr. Whitaker that he will massively enjoy watching Force Awakens.
I know he has got a really dodgy eye. I mean, I wouldn't risk it myself.
No, yeah. I mean, especially if you're going to watch it in 3D. Oh, by the way, if you're going to watch it in 3D, are you going to get some of those cool Stormtrooper 3D glasses?
Oh, probably. I have no idea what the tickets don't arrive till Monday, so we'll find out on Monday how it all works.
Because have you seen those?
Yes.
So yeah, have you mentioned that you're never coming on the show again? Because we hate you.
Oh, it's only because I won the poll.
Hate's a strong word, Neil.
Indeed, yes.
But in this case, it's justified.
Yes. Enjoy yourself on the red carpet.
Yes.
I shall do my best.
Yeah, give us a wave on the YouTube video. we shall look out for you.
I have no doubt.
Enjoy Star Wars, and we shall find out.
I shall.
Yes, and we shall find out at Christmas what you thought about it.
When we are doing the review of the year show.
Indeed.
It means at some point between now and the end of the year, I have to think of what my top 5 games are.
Well, Dave's has been really easy because he's only played Chain of Command.
So Chain of Command, Chain of Command, Chain of Command, Chain of Command, Chain of Command.
Oh, and Thunderbirds.
Yes, he does like Thunderbirds. Yes. And it'll be interesting to hear his thoughts on To the Strongest, because he's played To the Strongest, and Great War because he's played Great War. But that's about it. Mind you, having said that, I haven't played that much more either. I played a few extra bits and pieces, but there you go. We shall see. Yes.
So there you go, Rich. You're dead shooing for the favourite game of the year award again. I'll be the third you've won, won't I?
There was a potential possibility that could in fact be the case. Anyway, so until next time, happy gaming, and we shall catch up with you soon.
And it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him.
Good night. Thank you for listening to the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. If you want to know more about Meeples and Miniatures, there are several things you can do. First of all, you can visit the website at www.meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. If you want to contact the show at all, you can email me at neil@meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. You can follow the show on Twitter. Simply look for M&M Podcast, or click the follow us on Twitter button from the website. We also have a group on Facebook. That's the Meeples and Miniatures Podcast Fan Club. Again, follow the link from the website. And finally, if you want to help us to support the show, you can always donate to the podcast by clicking the PayPal button on the donate page, again found on the website. Once again, thank you for listening. I hope you've really enjoyed the show. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon.